Hello, everyone. Welcome to Genealogy Quick Start. We have a fantastic show for you today. I have amazing guests to share with you. Some I've known forever and some are new to me. And they won't be new to none of us any longer. So how's everyone doing? How's, life inside working out for you? I noticed one thing about you guys who are coming in here. I noticed from the engagements on Facebook that you guys are map people. Like, this is the map crowd. I can feel it. Like, I said something about the pandemic and you guys were like, who cares about a pandemic? You want to hear about those maps. So I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to bring on my best buds in the world of genealogy, at least on Thursdays, Jim and Michael. How are you guys doing today?
I'm good. We're good.
You're good. You're good.
Better now that I can see Michael's face. But
your day doesn't start until you get to see Michael's face.
Pretty much, yeah.
So guys, everyone is just like really excited about maps. So I want to ask you this question before we get started. First of all of you out there who are joining us, please tell us where you are. And I would definitely love to hear about why you love maps so much. So share with me, Jim and Michael, when was that like first inkling? When you look back, when you knew that, it was downhill with the maps, like you knew you were just connected?
Well, I can tell you that it must be genetic with me because when I was a kid already, I was drawing maps. When I was in German 3 in my junior year, I made maps of the Holy Roman Empire all over my German teacher's room. There may have been some extra credit needed to get me by. That might have been a motivation, but no, just like a tombstone of an ancestor before the photography era is kind of your physical representation.
Yes.
To me, a map really, puts things in physical order for me.
Whoa, that's nice. I like that. That's great. How about you, Michael?
Well, to add a couple things. One, a map is a geographic way to organize information.
Hey, wait.
What?
I didn't ask you guys to start teaching us about map. I want you to tell me about your map love. You guys are such presenters.
Well, I guess I grew up very rural. I grew up on a farm, and I would, look in the plat book for things. We always had a plat book, a current plat book, and I wanted to see where things were at. I like to know where they lived, and it really does kind of go back to the organization of geographic information. Yeah. But if you could see where they lived and how the pieces fit together, who was whose neighbor, and things of that type. There's other uses beyond that, but for me, that was kind of the starting point. And maps are somewhat mathematical, which was another plus from my own perspective.
Mathematical, that's true. So do you guys remember, and I don't know if they still do this, back in the day, before you went on vacation, you would go order from AAA, you'd order those triptychs. Yeah, so my parents, oh my God, like the vacation was just the other part. Getting those triptychs was the world. Like I had the world in the palm of my hands, and I was in charge of the navigation, of course, all the way to vacation. At least I thought I was in charge. So let's go ahead and get started with a map quick start. So we're going to talk about mapping your ancestors. So I sat and spent some time with you guys thinking about, some people are afraid of maps. Did you guys know that some people are actually afraid of maps? Did you guys know?
It's called mapophobia.
Mapophobia. We're going to change you from mapophobia to mapalicious. So that's our goal with this quick start. And it's really simple to get into maps, really simple. So I asked them, like, what's the first step? And the first step, of course, is always, what do you want to know? What do you want to know?
What's the question? Yep.
What's the question? Always with genealogy, right? And then we fell upon, what Jim loves to talk about, which is
the crosshairs of time and place.
The crosshairs of time and place. So you have to decide, think right now, think about it right now, what location and what time period would a map really be useful to you? So think about that right now. Once you have that, then you want to go ahead and locate some maps. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to show you some of these cool maps that Jim and Michael want to share with us. So hold on one second.
Just pretend you can see it.
Just pretend you can see it. So let's talk about mapping the ancestors. And so the first map, how did I get the number 3 already? Okay, hold on. I'm excited. Oh my God. All right. Something's weird. I don't know why it's on 3. Give me a second, guys. Okay, step 1. We are on 3. Okay, thank you, Beidler. So, Topo Maps. Tell us about this Topo map. It looks weird.
This one is from, I'm guessing probably the date there. I can't see because of your footer at the bottom of the screen.
Sorry, I'll remove it.
1933. This is a USGS map and from the Geological Survey. And one of the things I liked about it was this is a rural map, but it had every school. This is back in the era where there were all these one-room schoolhouses. And the joke I made when I posted this to my blog was you could determine if Grandpa really walked uphill to school. Both ways. If you know what a topo map is, you can you can get that geographic feature. This one was nice that it had dots for the homes. I knew those dots. I knew which dot was my great-grandparents' home, and there was a dot for the school at the corner. I keep pointing at the screen. You can't see me do that. But Union School was the school where they went about a mile west of where they lived. There was another one you can't see on this. The German school was about 1.25 miles to the northwest of their house. But this one,
can you share what these squigglies are?
What are?
The squigglies.
It's like different. It's the
elevations, right?
Elevation. That's the word I can't find. It's the elevation. So you can see there's a creek. Bear Creek runs right through there. You can't. It's not labeled on this part of it. But you can see those geographic features. You kind of get it's more low-lying ground right there west of the school. Their farm is pretty flat. It's flat across the road. It's flat to the south of that. Then there's kind of some. Well, you can't see the brush on a topo map, at least not this one. But there's kind of a waterway, and it kind of sloughs off back there a little bit, which you can kind of.
So they didn't walk uphill. They didn't have any hills.
No, Granddad didn't have any hills when they walked to this school. There was no hill. It's pretty flat until you get further west of the school.
And so to get these topo maps, you went to like the USGS Historical Topo Map Explorer and just kind of put in the address, right?
Right, because it will give you maps. It will give you all the historical topo maps. You can just type in a specific location, and then it will give you all the different maps that location appears in over time. And of course, it's based on the quadrangles, and those change. So the name of the quadrangle map that it's located in will change over time, but you can browse that location over time period. Some have the detail we see on that map, but some don't. It just kind of varies a little bit.
Cool. Topo maps are very useful. Topo maps they're free, USGS. So talk to us about this, Jim.
Well, this is Bern Township, Berks County, Pennsylvania in 1876. It's not uncommon, at least in the eastern states, during the 19th century, that there were several township atlases compiled and sold. For Berks, for instance, there's 1854, there's 1862, and 1876, this one. And it primarily lists the property owners' names. You can, there is a Beidler on this map. That's not a Beidler that's very closely
It looks like it says
me.
damn Beidler, if like damn.
Dan.
Oh, it's
D-A-N
sorry,
period, sir.
sorry.
So, but no, these are good for the property owners' names. It shows the roads of the time, because especially when you go back into the mid 19th century, a lot of times these roads will go to original property lines in quite a number of cases. So, it sets a snapshot in time. You can then correlate to the closest census and see the census taker as they went around the neighborhood in some instances. So it's a good way of doing things.
And on here, it looks like you could see it. This is as probably a schoolhouse, you think, maybe?
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe like a blacksmith shop, maybe.
Yep. Smiths, mills, all sorts of cottage industries, so to say.
I love these atlases. They're
Jim, do those maps in that time period show the property lines, or is it just pretty much where their house was at?
I mean, I'm not gonna say that none do. I haven't seen any in the counties that I work in Pennsylvania where they show actual property.
Right, because in places where we have the sections and townships, they'll have the property lines are mapped. Mapped out.
It's pretty easy when it's just a bunch of rectangles.
I know, because in the Midwest we had the good sense to know about squares and rectangles and not the meets and bounds.
Oh, don't get me started.
I wanted to comment on Patricia. I did notice Henry Kissinger too on that map. I don't know if anybody else did, but I did see Henry Kissinger there trying to negotiate some treaty, apparently among the Myers and the Bushongs.
Kissinger. So.
All right.
It's only Kissinger with an Austrasian accent.
All
right,
I'll refrain from comment on that.
So where do we get these? We get these at, let's see, did I get a screenshot?
A great collection is Historic Mapworks. There's a low res images that you can just get for free, and they have various prices for more high res ones.
Love Historic Mapworks. And you can also do this really cool thing where you can do the overlay. You know how, we were doing it ourselves, struggling, trying to get them on Google Earth. Mm-hmm. Now it's just like, poof, you just push a button and you'll see a little icon next when you search for your maps. You'll see a little icon that'll tell you whether or not it'll do this overlay. But this shows you an example of Jim's map overlaid on top of today's map, and then you could change the opacity right here. Love Historic Mapworks. You guys love Historic Mapworks? How about this one?
This is a Sanborn fire insurance map from Chicago. I think it's about the 1890s. There's another one here from a rural area, but the thing I like about the Sanborn maps, it gives you a perspective. In this case, you can see that the houses are just boom, 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 one right next to the other. You can see if they had an outbuilding in the back. This is too early for a garage, perhaps, but you just get a feel for the neighborhood. In the image are kind of small. You can see the avenue names there, the street name. You get the house numbers too, so you could, if you have the house number from a directory or a census enumeration, perhaps,
yes,
then you can be certain of what that is. In Chicago, of course, there's the street name changes, so there's guides to that, but you could also, with the Sanborn maps, do a little bit of that translation as well with a little bit of time. But it gives you a perspective. Gives you a kind of a residential area perspective. You can see where there were vacant lots and there were no houses, which might be just an interesting side note too. Is the other one on an image?
Yes, yes.
This one is rural, but I think it's got a grain elevator. But in parts of town that had businesses and offices or factories or whatnot, you'll see those. I grabbed this one because this is a little town of about 200 people. You can find Sanborn maps for smaller towns. It's not just metropolitan areas. This, the grain elevators on one side of the railroad tracks. The passenger train station is right there. And this is West Point, Illinois, which is a spot in the road. But it's got, who is the operator of the elevator, the year, bushel capacity. You kind of get there's an incline there to go up to dump the grain. You may see churches. We didn't have time to put all those things on here, but also churches, other buildings, liveries, horse stables, and things like that. That can be helpful too. It might tell you when a church was built. Of course, it's focused on the fire risk of these buildings. So is it made of brick? Is it made of wood? Those kinds of details are there too. What kind of heat and things of that type, which can be good information.
That's great.
It's not interesting thing. It's not going to prove a parent-child connection, but it's interesting things. And some of these you can get on the Library of Congress website. Sometimes in a person-specific state, you may have access to Sanborn Maps for your state through ProQuest or through another means. This would be another good time if you go on the LOC and can't find them for towns you have interest in. Communicate with your local librarian and see if you have access to them in some other way.
I know that a lot of the local libraries have them. Some of them have them online, and some archives and stuff. You just search for your town, right? Your city, and Sanborn, right?
Yeah, right. And on the Library of Congress site, it's pretty, I went on here and with you said you had to have an illustration. And so within 10 seconds, click, drop down, boom, boom.
It's amazing. They have so many maps. Like, did you guys ever go to the map room at the Library of Congress?
Yeah.
It's like that place where like that you walk in and like the heavens open up and the angels sing. Like, you don't even have to be prepared. You just walk in. I miss you guys. I just want to say, if anyone knows the guys at the Library of Congress map room, I miss you guys so much. You guys are the best anywhere, like anywhere. Seriously. All right, I'm gonna stop drooling now. What's next? Let's see. Warranty Township Maps. What is this?
Well, this is Pennsylvania's poor man's attempt to imitate the plat books of the Midwest. And of course, we have meets and bounds as our boundaries, which can be all sorts of jaggy stuff.
So can we just take a second to just talk about, excuse me, state land versus public land, because we keep saying meets and bounds, and some people might not know what that is. So can someone just briefly?
In state land was generally described using arbitrary measurements. You go so many yards, turn it the angle, go so many yards, turn, go so far, turn, go so far, until you got to the point of the beginning. And pieces of land are often shaped like was in the map that Jim showed just a moment ago. Starting with the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, and there was an attempt to put a grid on the planet, basically. And so property was measured with townships and sections, and we're really oversimplifying here, but that's why we had the squares.
It's beautiful. If you have a federal land or a public land state, it's beautiful. It doesn't look like this, which is also beautiful. I'm not pooping on your map, Beidler. It's
better not.
It's gorgeous as well. So is that? Go ahead, talk to us. I'm sorry.
The squares and rectangles, the townships and the sections. Made it easier to describe land legally in legal documents. It also made it easier for them to survey before anybody was there. And that's the real, in a nutshell. That's why if you fly over the Midwest, you see squares and rectangles. If you fly over the East Coast, it looks like somebody was drunk with a crayon when they marked the property boundaries.
All the way around. So, and these warranty township maps, what they do is these map out the original parcels from the first purchasers, either from the proprietors, the Penn family before the Revolution, or from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania after the Revolution.
So that's kind of like the equivalent of the BLM, but for Pennsylvania.
In a way, yes. And so what on the sides of these maps, like this Tract 86, it's going to give the reference for the warrant. That is who originally took it out, who surveyed it, and when it was surveyed, and when it was patented, the patent being the final legal title to the land. What is not unusual is you've got one dude who warrants it and probably surveys it, and then he doesn't want to bother paying the patent fee, so he ends up selling it on the county level, and it may be sold for 100 years on the county level with no one actually taking legal title of a patent. So actually, these maps are the fruit of the Pennsylvania Land Office wanting to do a patent sweep to see what areas were still unpatented in the 1950s. And then, of course, come calling to whoever was squatting there. And these are all on the Pennsylvania State Archives website, free for the looking and taking.
All right, another fabulous place on the internet for maps and genealogy.
This came from the Newberry County Atlas of county boundary changes, and the county of interest here was Bourbon. The first one you see is from 1810, and the issue was, by this point in time in this part of Kentucky, most of the counties had been formed. They weren't carving out too many new counties in this part of the state. But what they did do, there's a straight line there on the northeast side, and straight lines in Kentucky make no sense. And if you go to given the geography of the area, and so if you click to the next one,
and given that it's Bourbon County,
well, that's another issue altogether. We're not going to have that conversation. But what happened was, it was originally an arbitrary straight line drawn from here straight to a certain point. And then what happened by 1820, they said it would make a little more sense if we use that creek as the county line. So that's why you see the alteration there. And so what happened, the only reason I cared about it was because my forebear owned property that before the change was in Bourbon County. And after they made there wasn't a large acreage. It wasn't a large amount of acreage. But after they went to the creek as the boundary, basically, my ancestors' property was in the other county. And it took me a while to find the deed, because again, this was in a time period where counties weren't being carved out, but they decided they tweaked the boundary, and so that moved my person over. But that's how those county boundaries change. Of course, it's important when it's in early days of settlement, because they're just, whatever. But as time goes on, for a variety of reasons, sometimes geography, once in a while it's local politics, they decide to alter the line ever so slightly. And that can, like it did for me, that can impact where the records are located.
That's great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's, amazing. So there is a question, where did this come from? So Newberry Library.
Newberry Historic County Line Boundary Line Changes
this is amazing website. I think I show, you can choose a state and you can get an interactive map that looks like this. And you could choose a year, and you can hover over it'll show you which counties were available during that time period. And then you can hover over your county to get information about that particular county.
If you Google search Newberry Atlas Historical County Boundaries, you'll find it.
It'll come right up. You don't even have to look hard.
Yeah, Newberry Atlas Historical County Boundaries, and it will come up. And if Laura in the chat, I think it was Laura that had a question. Laurel, I'm sorry. If you could put a little more detail about what the tract book index and that number, maybe one of us can answer your question, because I'm not quite certain to what you're referring to. That was a question at 1217 that I just saw pop up.
So talk to us. We're now in Amherst County, Virginia. Oh, you can't see it.
I see it. No, I'm still at home. I've been this is it's similar to what it's not similar to Jim's comment with the warrants. This was a survey plat to make certain the lines were really where they were believed to be at, and this is one for umpteenth great grandpa Thomas Sled, and it's not showing all the neighbors like it did in the countywide map that Jim had earlier, but Thomas paid to have it surveyed to have his lines clearly marked for this 85-acre piece of property. And then these were recorded at the courthouse because you wanted your lines. It's not like in the Midwest where there's survey markers and corners and all that kind of stuff. And so you would periodically have it resurveyed to make certain, you know, when you decide to use an oak tree as a corner, those oak trees don't stay forever.
Oh my God! Don't start talking about
these. These were on Family Search, and the one joke about the meets and bounds that I didn't hear it. I read it it was a comment about a survey in Maryland in 1790 something, and they're asking this 70-year-old man, you know, where the corner is to his piece of property. He says the corner is in such a place. And then the judge says, how do you know that's where the corner of your property is? And he said, my pa bought that land. And when I was 18 years old, my pa took me to that spot and he whipped me hard on that spot. And he says this in the deposition. And the joke is not funny. He whipped him on that spot and really gave him the whipping of his life so he would always remember where the corner was to that farm. That's in one of the funniest things I've read in the land record. But you know, it was there because to mark those spots. But this was found on Family Search.
And it was not by searching; it was by browsing, right?
It was by searching the card catalog for Amherst, Virginia.
Gotcha.
You know, we could spend a whole day on effectively using the card catalog, but some of these records that we're talking about, they're not in the index record sets. They're just the microfilm plopped on the internet at Family Search. And you have to go into the card catalog and do a search by location, county location, and types of records that we're usually talking about.
So we want to make sure that we get to some questions. So basically, we've provided some great places for you to go look for maps. And the last step of our quick start is to locate or use what we call map companions. So talk to us about this map companion, Jim.
Well, this really revolutionized German genealogy just a few years ago when it came online. And the Myers Gazetteer is the leading gazetteer of the Second German Empire period. That's from 1871 to the end of World War I. So it's the highest emigration period from Germany to America. And this locates, 100,000 or more little villages. Every place in Germany is on here. And the features are, first of all, it helps you, figure out the name. Secondly, it gives you you can toggle both a historical map and also a modern day map. You can locate the church parishes, so you see whether the village had its own parish or whether it belonged to an adjoining village. And the site is continuing to grow. It's German genealogist #1 tool.
So that sounds amazing. Other map companions besides gazetteers would be what, like a city directory? Like what else would you guys consider a map companion?
Well, even in city directories, if you get away from looking for your dead person's name, there can be occasionally maps in there as well. Ward maps. We're talking larger cities and things of that type that might be helpful with your research. And there's also online at Family Search, there are census enumeration district maps. We didn't talk about those, but those can be helpful as well.
Fantastic.
Particularly in more urban areas. Rural people don't always have a need for those as much, but in urban areas, those can be helpful.
So we have some questions. Marjorie says she's having an awful time finding a Sanborn map of Chicago before the Chicago fire. Any suggestions?
One, there's not a lot of Sanborn maps. I have to go really take a look, but when you're talking pre-Chicago fire, there weren't a lot of insurance maps in general.
That would have been my answer too.
Before the fire. The fire was probably what precipitated the fire insurance industry.
Exactly.
So my gut would tell me there aren't many of those for anywhere.
BJM said that they use mining maps in the 1860s. Those helped out mining maps. I think they did put the track book number in there. Cool. Those were the map questions. So let's just quickly look at the map quick start. It's not a big deal, guys. Don't be afraid. I think someone named, who was that who said that they were afraid? We don't want you to be afraid. Step one is just first ask a question. That's research, right? Then you got to do those crosshairs. Not only do you have to do them, you got to put the arms up, just like Jim, crossing at the wrist, the crosshairs, location and time. And then use some of these wonderful sites, the Library of Congress, historical map works, so many places to find those maps. And really, we have just dusted the surface of all of these maps. But we want to thank you guys for fantastic mapalicious time. And the one thing I didn't show you guys is Beidler. Beidler is not only on this show, columnist, he is also the author of a map book.
Imagine that. Yes. Yeah, this came out last year. It's the Family Tree Historical Atlas of Germany. Do a web search for jamesmbeidler.com and you can figure out how to order it. This has everything from Roman times up to the current day, especially necessary because the German states are not an area with a linear history. Easy for me to say. Linear history like America and those county boundaries that are on Newberry. In Germany, it slices and dices, goes inside out. The atlas will help you.
So let me just tell you, I want to make sure that you've paid Irene her check. I posted you up and I posted this book and someone said this is their go-to. Your book is their go-to. So make sure that you take care of Irene. Send her that check that you promised her for promoting your book.
Sending you a salary, Irene.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Let's move on to the next episode. And that will be, oops, I'm moving along wrong. Sorry, I have all of these wonderful people. Bye, Michael.
Bye, thank you.
Pets today. You got to go wrangle the pets. There was no pet.
I know, the pets are taking a nap somewhere. I'm not sure.
Hi, everyone. We are now going to start with the second part of the show. And I'm going to bring on two amazing people who I'm sure that many of you know. They have been in the genealogy world online since forever, since there wasn't online, right? But before I bring them out to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, I want to take a moment just to share with you something that really is a part of what I'm calling pandemic genealogy. I don't know about you guys. The time is tough, but there are so many amazing things going on. And Myrt and cousin Russ, they're going to share some of those with you. But there is also something else going on that we need to address. And we have today someone that I just most recently met, Lori Burdick.
Hi.
Hello, Lori.
Hello.
So I met Lori this year. We both were at IGHR, the Institute for Genealogy and Historical Research, which I'll talk to you about a little later. But the funny thing is, because we went virtual this year, I didn't meet Lori till our happy hour.
That's right. Over water bottles.
So Lori, thank you so much for joining us today. The reason Lori is a military researcher. She has the distinction of being the first private person to be able to research at the St. Louis facility. Tell me about that briefly.
Well, I met a great person when I went to the St. Louis Genealogy Society fair that May, and I met Jackie Ostrowski, who was the supervisor of the room, and she told me about how the room was opening up to the public, the archives, and and I needed to get a job according to my husband. So, I've always been in genealogy, always been to the military, and they just tied together. And I just started my business that August, and that was in 2006, and been going ever since, and love it, every bit of it, being able to help people.
So what I learned about you also,
oh no,
the fact that you were on the show, Who Do You Think You Are, which is super cool, you worked on that show, is that you are also a part of a group called archivalresearchersassociation.com. So
Yeah.
who are they?
Well, a lot of us are researchers here in the St. Louis area. There's some now joining from the DC NARA area. And what our goal is to get individuals, private organizations, small businesses like mine and other genealogists, people who do research in the NARA facilities and other state facilities, access to records. As everybody knows, with the pandemic, everything's been closed down, but we're trying to get them to start opening up these facilities, make them user friendly. They can, put up plexiglass or whatever, so we can all start getting research done again, especially for the veterans.
What I want you to explain, because some people I've seen, outcries on the internet from people saying, when are we going to be able to get back in? And then people saying things like, this is an epidemic. It's not about looking up your dead ancestors. So can you explain why it's more than that?
Well, for me, I deal with a lot of people that need actually more current military stuff too, so they can get their benefits, so they can get their VA loans. I actually had an email this morning from a lady that's working in a hospice facility in Pennsylvania, and this veteran's dying, but he wants to confirm that he was in the service during the Korean War. And because he goes, because since he's starting to lose his mind a little, and he just wants that confirmation before he dies. And I had to write her today, and I said, well, I can't get into the facility. I would try, because of the fire in 73, I would look up, see if he had a, discharge statement and file. But to replace that, I could look at microform morning reports and trace them. And, and I said, I can't do anything. I'm so sorry. I'm hoping he's going to be alive by the time, it opens.
That is, oh my gosh.
I know, and I wrote her back, and and I'm thinking, my dad was in the Korean War, and I'm thinking, and this guy was in the Korean War, and he just wants to validate his last days, and to prove to himself that he was in this unit. And
so, Lori, how can we help?
Well, we have a website, as you showed, and we also have a Facebook site. And if anybody's interested, go to those sites. We have different membership levels. And we have our mission statement, our vision statement, our objectives. Just like us on Facebook, take your time and just read about us, and maybe you'll want to join us, because it's not only for professional researchers, it's for, like you said, genealogists, it's for the people out there, that these veterans that need this information and want this information, and we just want to be able to give it to them. So I appreciate it.
Lori. I
thank you so much.
Group, and it seems like you guys are just getting started, but I just want to put awareness on what's going on, and I appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Love the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up, you guys have been waiting long enough. You've been waiting long enough. It's time for me to bring on my buddies, probably almost, let me think, have I learned them longer than Jim? I'm not sure. It might be a contest. I think I've known Jim longer. But Myrt and Russ, oh my goodness. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
So I've asked you guys to come on because you guys are just always upbeat. You're always looking at the possible ways to get things done. And, I like that about you. Myrt, where did we meet first?
Where did we meet first? We're thinking it was the Bucks County, Pennsylvania Genealogical Society all-day conference, and you were speaking. Michael Haight was speaking. I was speaking. And I was scared to death because Lou Zooks was in the audience. Of course, you don't need to be afraid.
Loyalty.
But yeah. It was a fun day.
Yes. And cousin Russ. I met Russ on the internet. We talked on the internet forever. And the first time we actually met, was at, I think Russ was at the Cherry Hill Family History Center when we had that conference.
Yeah, and there's an app for that.
And I had to, I was going to run up and just give you a bear hug. And I saw like this nice lady standing next to you. And I said, can I hug your husband? And she was like, I'm used to it. So, so you guys, let's go ahead and get started with what I'm calling pandemic genealogy. And really, it's like all of these different ways that we as genealogists have access to things because of the pandemic. So first, you know, I want to make sure you guys know about dear Myrtle and her website. So dear Myrtle, how long have you had this blog going on?
Well, I started in the AOL genealogy forum, but didn't go out on, well, the internet hadn't been invented yet. I couldn't even send email to Dick Eastman because he was on CompuServe and I was on AOL. And you could only send email to people in your own service. So it's a long time in the previous century, long time ago.
Oh my, wait. Did you just say AOL and CompuServe? Like,
yep. Yes, I did.
All right. Let's get going because that's a hole that I could easily climb into. So let me pull back and get going with pandemic genealogy. So first we said, you know, we have more database access from home now. So Russ told me about this one. I didn't know about this. So you said, Russ, about Ancestry. Tell us about that.
If your local library has subscription services and remote access to the library, normally one of the features that some of the libraries have is access to genealogy services. There are a number of websites that are subscription paid that have access from home, but during the pandemic, Ancestry Library Edition added the ability to allow you to access that online database from home. Normally, you have to go into the library to access the collection on Ancestry, but during the pandemic, you can do it from home with your bunny slippers.
That is pretty sweet. That is pretty sweet.
And all you need is a library card. But your library does have to have the subscription, and usually on the website, if you look under resources on most websites, one will be genealogy, and they may have more than one subscription service available.
That's true. This one blew my mind. I don't know how many people use Jstor, but Jstor provides access to journals and books. And we used to have, you know, we could look at like 6 articles per month. And they upped it to 100 articles per month. Oh my God, 100 articles per month you can now get on Jstor. And for free. You can download the PDFs. It's amazing. You guys like Jstor?
Jstor's been a great source for me. And my trick is taking that PDF and either changing it to a Word document, or if it's just one page, I make it a graphic file using my Adobe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then it looks better when you attach it to your Ancestry. You can see the whole page.
Ah, makes sense. That's
trick.
Nice. Myrt has all these little tricks, Myrt. You got the tricks. So, and so here they are. You know, you do your little search in here. You can download that PDF. It's just amazing resource. So think whatever school, whatever they're giving people for school, check out those sites. You never know what you might get.
To me, Jstor does one other little thing that is gets beyond the names, dates, and places. Mm-hmm. You can find records that put some meat around those names, dates, and places.
I love that.
And the pandemic to me, is giving us time to do that. We're so busy collecting names, dates, and places, we don't have or take the time to go dig deeper to put some meat.
Can I jump in here too?
Of course.
I agree with Cousin Russ.
Yeah.
Because we're not traveling, and I mean, I should have been to England and up to Washington State and a few other places. Because we're not traveling, I don't feel rushed when I find a document online. I have time to save it to my local hard drive. I have time to give it a good name, something other than 43 letters and numbers thrown together. But, you know, actually the ancestor's name, a date, the type of document, etc. And then attach it to that person in my genealogy database. And the other thing I forgot to mention, I always add a little extra border on the bottom so that I can take whatever citation I'm capable of making. And I'm not perfect on citations. I just want to write in that little space, where did I get this from? Jstor, from this place, from Ancestry, Family Search, whatever it is.
Exactly. I love that. Just really quick, there is I don't know if any of you guys have been to Chester County Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
When you do their microfilm, and when they put on every image, like it's like this dream zone. Every single image has the information. Like, I think I'm shaking right now. Can you guys see I'm shaking? Like, I don't know how they found time to do that, but they love that show. That's serious love. So if you guys love your records, you want to listen and do the same thing Chester County does. Shout out to Chester County. All right, moving on.
Hillary made one comment that the National Archives has stuff available for free. What the pandemic has done, and we've given several examples, the National Archives is another one, have given us access to records that we would not normally have had until we were home.
Are you talking about the National Archives in DC or UK?
UK.
Okay. Oh my God.
The National Archives.
You're right.
Yep.
All right. I missed the V.
So Kathleen asked if I could show an example of my document altered with a citation. Kathleen, I'll do you one better. I'll do a quick mini Myrt, either tonight or tomorrow. Yeah, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Yes, I've written it down. I have a note.
Myrt takes care of her people.
I do.
All right. Let's look at another thing that is really amazing, is that during this pandemic, we have access to enhanced virtual learning. Like, we've had, stuff before. But like, for instance, like I said, Lori and I both are faculty at the IGHR, which is the Institute of Genealogy and Historical Research. It's in Athens, Georgia. It's an hour and 40 minutes away from the airport. I was not going to go to Athens, and I've been going to IGHR for over a decade, and I was just turned off by the location. But guess what? This year, we had 42% of the people were new. And many of them came because we were virtual. They've always wanted to come, and they came because we're virtual. So I want you to look forward to that. Like, GRIP is also virtual. What other ones have gone? NVS went virtual. Maggie in St. Louis, they went virtual.
Well, and we've got one coming up this fall with a number of things and I'm sending the link to the YouTube channel, folks.
Thank you.
It's Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy. For 8 years, they've done at least one, if not more, virtual courses online in the fall. But they've added to them this fall, and then they're totally virtual for their normal January 2 to 3 week event. So big time ability to get in-depth, week-long instructor-led education and group discussion. I think group discussions help, don't they, Shamil?
Oh my gosh, those are the best. We used to have after hours every day. We had office hours. And so that let the people who took the course just ask questions of the instructor. So, and you get to mingle and meet other people. So it's an amazing time. There's nothing better than actually networking at an event. You guys brought this up too. Like, I didn't even think about this. Enhanced virtual learning, peer-to-peer learning.
So I thought, first of all, Blaine Bettinger with genealogy tips and techniques. I keep saying tips and tricks, but it's tips and techniques. It's a Facebook group, and that's where he will post things that he's thinking of. He'll anything he runs across in the way of DNA, and he'll respond to that and let you know how he feels about it. Plus, his own blog posts are put there. And well-known DNA specialists are also part of that group. And that ability for people to get together, not live necessarily, but in a message board kind of way, asynchronously, to solve each other's research problems. Somebody said, is that my cousin or my half-sister? There can be a distinction, and people can help.
I love that. I love that. This is another one. You guys introduced me to Lisa 11C. So what the heck is that? This is something new from Lisa?
It certainly is. It's live on YouTube, and you can, everything is live and automatically recorded. And she's basically, it's just a different format for her, a different outlet. As opposed to going to her website first. And 11Z's is like a cup of tea and a scone, and, you know, and hearkening back to our British roots. And let's just sit around and talk about it. And I like that concept. Don't we love talking, Cousin Russ?
And it's short and sweet as compared to her other materials that she's done in the past have been webinars and long presentations. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's short and sweet, rather so she can get a point across very quickly.
Absolutely. What's next?
So what's next is free webinars.
Okay. In addition to the stuff that Cousin Russ and I do, you must subscribe to Family Tree webinars. Now, you can see them for free. You can watch one for free in the recorded format for 5 days. So if you actually have to go out for something important with your mask during the actual live event, you can't do the interaction and the question and answer period, but you can learn so much over at Legacy Family Tree webinars.
So they are like a powerhouse, and like normally I would not, subscribe to like a webinar site, but their library is so, would you say that their library is probably the deepest webinar library?
I think that because they've partnered with the Board for Certification of Genealogists, so they have some certified genealogists. You know, I'm certifiable, but not certified. Then I think that the depth of the content development is there. Focus of, for instance, your Myrtle is for beginners, and we bridge over to that. But they have tech short subject videos. Sometimes they'll have a free weekend of military records, something like that. But for heaven's sakes, I think they have almost as many hours of webinars in their library as we do, Cousin Russ. And theirs is, it's $49 a month. I mean, a year. Big mistake.
To me, it's an educational benefit. Or if I'm budgeting how much I spend on my hobby, this is the educational piece. There's multiple, and we've talked about a bunch of places where you can get education, but the Legacy Family Tree webinar website is where I spend my educational money.
And talking about tons of places to go, look at the next slide, Russ.
So I cannot believe this. You guys introduced me to Catherine R. Wilson. I'm going to say that she is Cindy's list for social media. Like, her PDF is amazing. So during the pandemic, we can now attend distant genealogy groups and historical events. And Catherine is helping us to do that. My friend, my genealogy buddy, Diane, she attended, she lives in PA, so she's a member of AAGG here in Philadelphia, but she attended the Cleveland's African-American group just last month. So talk to us about Catherine. Who is Catherine? Why does she do this? This is amazing.
She's a pretty amazing gal. And I think that everyone should download it. We always let you know when the newest list is out. For instance, she jumped from 15,000 to over 16,000 in just a 3-month period of time. And every one of those links is clickable. On the left side of the screen are the categories. And if you click on those categories that don't seem to look clickable, it will take you like to, for instance, Florida, where it goes by county, it can go by topics in Florida, etc. It's very good.
It's very nice. I'm gonna definitely look at that more. I have had some fun. I've had some amazing fun. I hung out in a slave cabin. It was so amazing.
Oh
so
my.
I went to Kingsley Plantation, had a virtual tour, and they showed us all around the plantation. Now, I'm pretty sure the Rangers were not doing this before the pandemic, but they get the chance to really showcase their stuff, you know. I also, got a chance to go to Monticello and take a walking tour. They have a site for, they call it Main Street Tour. And it talked about the descendants of those who were formerly enslaved at Monticello. It was walking the town of Charlottesville and showing us how they were building that town, how they built that town.
I had 2 experiences. The same line is one of the things that I wanted to do this summer was visit Civil War battlefields. They're on Facebook, on video, where you can go, if you know who it is, you can go and he'll do a video of a piece of Gettysburg. The other is that one of my ancestors' house, which dear Myrtle and I both have visited together, is maintained by the National Park Service, and you can visit that house video and see all of the stuff that I've seen when I've been inside. So that wasn't there before. It's now there because the Monticello thing I saw myself. So the video that you shared.
It's incredible. These virtual tours takes us outside of our 21st century thinking and back into that time period. Yeah, excellent.
And that's the most important thing for us. And that goes back to what you were saying is that, we're not just chasing those names. Now we're taking a moment back. I actually read a whole reference book like last week. Like, I haven't done that in a while. Normally I'm going to the index and I'm going to my pages and I'm pulling out my notes. I sat and I read the whole book. I'm so proud of myself.
And you got the context of that ancestor in that area. Yeah.
I was there, Myrt. I was there. Yes.
Love it. Congratulations.
All right, let's move on to more pandemic wonderfulness. Should I say that? Is that wrong?
Well, we're trying to be positive. We really are. And this dovetails into what you just were talking about. The tour is good, but hanging out with your family virtually, wow. Tell us about this.
So we had a Mother's Day hat party. So I invited my cousins to get a hat, put on some kind of hat. And it was like a tribute to our top woman that we all have in common, which is my great grandmom. And so we shared stories about her. And it was great because the truth is that most of the people who were on the call actually never met her before.
What is her name? What
Her
was
name is, her name, we called her, everyone called her Sister, but her name is Lucille Toomer Jackson.
Wow. So you were able to tell the story, and the hats were part of this story.
Definitely, because she was a hat woman, and we're all hat women probably because of her. Hat women and guys. The men in my family wear the hats too.
Maybe not the flower over here or there, but you never know.
Hey, you never know.
I know. So did she use Zoom? It looked like Zoom meeting.
It was Zoom meeting.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Great use of technology. And I've heard of grandmothers reading stories live, but not recording for their grandchildren. And now it's time to go to bed because they've already brushed their teeth and had their jammies on before they could hear Grandma read the next part of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, that's amazing. So I want to share with everyone our, I know, so Claire used to do that. I wonder how she's upgraded it with Zoom. I need to talk to her. Yeah. So I'm going to share with you guys the list that we came up with for pandemic genealogy, the things that you can do now. You can enjoy more database access from home. You can get enhanced virtual learning. You can also attend distant genealogy groups and historical events. Step back into your ancestors' time. They're allowing us to do that now. It'll help you actually find records, believe it or not. And also you want to record family events, and you can do a lot more oral histories where you're recording, and you can have a video and you can have the audio. So Myrt and Russ, thank you so much for coming on and sharing pandemic genealogy. I'm slightly going over my time, but we must have our wrap-up question. I'm going to give all the genealogists a free trip, and you're going to have to tell me where they want to go. All right. Thank you guys for being on the show. And so the wrap-up question that everyone's going to answer for me is that I am the amazing time-traveling, what do they call them? Tour guide. And you get to pick one location, like maps, one location, time period, and
I'm here.
And she's locking up.
Oh, what's the time period? Oh, am I locked?
Yes, a little bit. There's a big lag.
So Myrt,
you want me to go first?
Yeah, because Shamel is just cutting in and cutting out. She's time traveling right now, I think.
All right. I think she is. So I want to go to 1754 to Pennsylvania to just sit by my ancestor, Conrad Weiser, who in his earlier years had been a negotiator between the natives and the the provincial government of Pennsylvania, to find out how he managed to then become a colonel during that French and Indian War time period. That's a lot of juggling. And if he could do that, then I probably would become a better negotiator by following his example. That's it.
Great.
Okay. So I think she's still locked up. You want to go for Cousin Russ? Yeah, Cousin Russ.
Okay, I will go to 1890 to Kansas, Missouri, and to a train station, because I want to see what the family looked like in that time period, in that place. And my grandfather, his younger brother and youngest sister got on a train and went from Kansas City to Philadelphia.
Oh, backwards migration. Reverse.
You guys are all coming to me in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you where are you? Do you have more, Russ?
No, I don't. I wave to you every time I go by.
Okay. Well, I'm taking the trip to an indeterminable time in the Middle Ages, probably in Switzerland, because I want to know when my surname ancestor, who probably then was taking the name of Beidler, that what was it really an occupational name, that he was a maker of purses or pouches or beutels. There's other possible derivations that I'm not going to say on air. So, but I want to nail that down somewhere, probably in the 1300s.
Way cool. Shamil, are you back?
You see me?
Yes, we can see
Yeah.
you, but you're still lagging.
You're still twanging. I
So
think we're up
keep
to Michael.
going. Who's next?
There's a million places and a million times that I'm going to go to Keithsburg, Illinois in 1935 because I never got a good answer when I asked my grandmother why they went there to elope to get married. And so I know the preacher's house where they got married. I'm just going to stand outside the door and say, why are you here? Tell me why. I know you're getting hitched, but why are you here? Grandma, you're only half my age now. Why are you here?
Ah, mystery. Okay, Lori.
Mine would be like Cousin Russ, 1890, like Brooklyn, New York, because my great grandparents came from Poland, Russian. They were Russian background, and I wanted to see how they met and caused the rest of our family to be who we are. And so, I mean, I saw the apartment when I went to New York. I think it was the apartment that my great grandmother lived in, but this to actually see them meeting and walk their paths of what they did every day.
I just love it. Shamil, can you speak?
Am I still freezing?
No, you're good.
You look pretty thought out, yeah.
You're ready for the rap.
So, I would go to 1927 Philadelphia, to the room, location, vehicle. I shouldn't say that about my great grandmom. Wherever the deed took place, because I'd really like to know who my great.
Oh.
X-rated.
You wanted that PG-13 rating, didn't you?
So unlike Michael, you know the why, you want to know the who.
Yeah. I love it.
So everyone, thank you so much. It's been a blessing to have you here today. And the audience obviously loved everything you had to say. So audience, I will not have time to run through everyone today where you are. I saw you were from everywhere, but I'm like 8 minutes over. I try to respect your time. So thank you so much for joining. Everyone have a fantastic pandemic.
Yay.
You
Bye,
too,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Shamil.